What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. If you're new here, I'll introduce myself briefly. My name is Simon Hill. I'm a Black American from Louisiana, husband, Muslim, friend to the third world. Been traveling around for a while, blowing up this YouTube channel, just trying to do it for fun as a passion project, and to do these live streams every now and then to talk about something that I find interesting. And today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different than what I usually do on my channel. Usually on my live streams, I talk about issues related to anti-black racism, white supremacy around the world, how it appears and how it affects the lives of people and destroys people, and how we can fight against it. But if you've been following my content, you also know that I'm an educator. Like, I'm an English teacher. That's how I'm able to, live the life that I live, take care of myself and my family. And I value education a lot. And I take my job seriously as an ESL teacher. I know this is a, you know, minimum wage profession. It's not something super fancy. I'm not a, licensed card carrying teacher or anything like that, or a seasoned professor. But I do think what I do is very important for the world. And a lot of people value what I have to contribute to the world. So I'm glad that I'm able to do that and give that to people. And this story relates to education, it relates to teachers, and it relates to my home state of Louisiana. And I'm from Louisiana, very proud of that fact. And this is a story that touches on all of those things, and also a little bit of racism and that sort of thing. So let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. So I always start these live streams off with a map. Here is the map here of the United States of America. And this is Louisiana right here, the state in red. As you can see, it borders Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi, and the Gulf of Mexico is to the south of it. And if we take a look here, here is the cities of Louisiana. As you can see, Monroe, where I'm from, is at the top. But shout out to Monroe 318. Yeah, 71. Yeah, we out here. New Orleans is the biggest city in Louisiana. It's right here at the mouth of the Mississippi River at the bottom, and Baton Rouge is the capital. So today we're talking about a teacher from Louisiana who helped a student escape from jail. Bruh, New Orleans teen shot and robbed a man in 2019, leaving him paralyzed. Last week, he escaped from jail, and his teacher left, drove him to Houston, helping him escape from Louisiana police. She was arrested and he was found. This is a post on Instagram from Say Cheese TV. You can find it. I'm going to put the links for all of the articles that I'll be reading today in the comments, because I'm kind of scared to put my links in the description. They gave me some sort of warning about that last time. So anything that I post here, you can find the links in the comment section. First comment, it will be pinned. But anyway, so on glance, like on first glance, right? People are going to see this story, see young white woman, young black man's a criminal. Or convicted of being a criminal, and this teacher here is breaking this man out of jail. Automatically, people are going to think that they had some sort of sexual relationship, romantic relationship, something like that was going on, right? That's possibly what people are going to think, because we hear about these stories all the time. Unfortunately, if you're from the United States of America, you've heard these stories plenty of times. Teachers are sleeping with students and getting romantically involved with students, and sometimes even getting pregnant by students. So young white women, mostly young white women teachers, are sleeping with their students and having inappropriate relationships with them. Me as an educator, I've never thought of my students that way, ever. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. I've been teaching for about 5 years, and I've had some pretty hot students. I'm not gonna lie. I've had some students that I met and they were fire. But I never once thought about using my position as an educator, or somebody who was a supposed to be a role model for them, or somebody who is supposed to be there to help guide them, help them learn, to then use that to then take advantage of them. To me, that's very sick and wrong. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If you're a older person and you have a job to do, and you are there to help people learn, you should never ever, under any circumstance, get romantically involved with them. I don't even care if it was after they graduate. Like, if I was a high school professor and then my students turn 18, she graduates or whatever, and then I see her outside, I wouldn't even think about approaching them that way, or having any relationship with them at all, because to me that's gross. Number one, I like, my wife. My wife is hot, and she's much younger than me, right? She's about 8 years younger than me. So I already got like a fit, hot young bird. So I don't need a even younger, more immature bird around me. Not saying my wife is immature, but I'm just saying I don't get the appeal of older men who look at younger women and find that sexy or appealing. I like a woman who's more grown, more mature, more educated, somebody around my age. I don't get why anybody would go for anybody that young. And then on top of that, we have to think, as a teacher, right, you are having other people's children around you, right? This young man or any young man who's around an older individual is somebody else's child, right? And no parent, and I'm not a parent, by the way, but no parent would want their children to be sexualized while they're being educated or to be desired romantically while they're being educated. To me, that's wildly inappropriate. And we see this happen far too often. But actually, in this story, we're going to read a bit deeper about what happened between these two because the story is actually quite interesting and it goes pretty deep. So I'm not going to be on here long. We're only going to be here for maybe an hour and 10 minutes because I have a class to get to. I still have to work. But let's read a bit about this story. So, New Orleans teacher helped teen fugitive Lionel Reynolds after escape, authorities say. This was published on October 3rd, 2023, written by Missy Wilkinson for NOLA.com. So this is a picture of the Orleans Justice Center. And I'm not gonna lie, I was in there one time, man, when I was in college, man, got into some trouble. And I think I had to spend some time in there. I forgot if it was this one or another one, but I don't know if this is just the jail, like if you get caught up for a DUI or something like that, or if you get into a fight. But yeah, I don't remember. I don't fully remember, but I definitely, caught a little case in New Orleans. But it's no biggie. I'm not a felon, guys. I'm not some criminal. Never spent time in jail. But yeah, everybody gets caught up in something sometimes. But anyway, let's go here. So, cherubic and studious, Lionel Reynolds was a star student at his New Orleans middle school, known to spend off hours in the library reading or chatting with his longtime teacher, Angela Filardo. He'd experienced a murder suicide that left an uncle and two siblings dead, and a quadruple shooting that left his mother dead and his father with a traumatic brain injury. Filardo, who taught Reynolds in grades 5 through 8, became a confidant. She appeared in court on Reynolds' behalf in 2019 when he was convicted of attempted murder at age 13 and sentenced to juvenile life for shooting a man paralyzed. But after Reynolds escaped last month from a juvenile detention center in Lake Charles, authorities allege that Filardo crossed the line from advocate to accomplice. So I just want to start here with this. In America, too many children, too many people, too many young people are victims of gun violence, whether they be actually shot or whether they know people who have been shot or witness gun violence happen. I've said this time and time again on my channel. I am adamantly against the Second Amendment and the gun culture that permeates in America. Too many people have lost their lives intentionally or unintentionally. Too many children are affected by the gun violence that plagues America all the time, all the time. And it needs to stop. It actually needs to stop because somebody like Mr. Reynolds here, this young man, should have never grown up and seen murder suicides or people his mother shot dead from a quadruple shooting. His mother died in a mass shooting. I hate when people put these titles here like triple shooting, quadruple shooting, call it what it is, a mass shooting. And what we have in America is an epidemic of mass shootings, and it needs to stop because too many people are hurt by the gun, hurt by the gun. This man was traumatized by something that does not exist in many other developed first world nations. But in America, oh, this is common. Children grow up in New Orleans, in Chicago, in New York, in Philadelphia, in Baltimore, in Los Angeles, in Seattle, in Miami, hearing gunshots at night. I'm filming this video right now here in Budapest, Hungary, and that would be unheard of. That would be unheard of in many parts of the world I've traveled to. Yet and still in America, we find that normal. By the way, I see some people in the chat. Leave a comment. This is live right now. We're going live. I have my phone right here ready to reply to any comments. And Acti, if you want to join the chat too, you're more than welcome. It's not going to stop the stream if you want to. You don't have to. No, you don't have to if you don't want to. 'Cause I know I told you not to, but I just was like, I watched the stream again, and it only happens sometimes, regardless of whether someone's on or not. Yeah. Anyway, Acti says hi to the chat. She's not joining us today, but we're still building heavy about some interesting topics. So I hope y'all feel this one too, like when she is on, because she's my most popular guest. When Acti's on, everybody loves the stream. But now when I'm on, let's see how y'all feel me. But let's continue building. So According to a warrant for Filardo's arrest late Monday, it was her vehicle that Reynolds took to get from New Orleans to Texas via Slidell on September 23rd. The same vehicle returned to Louisiana the same day, though it appears Reynolds remained in Texas. The New Orleans school teacher was booked Monday night into Orleans Justice Center as an accessory after the fact to simple escape, a felony, for allegedly helping Reynolds after his September 13th flight from a non secure facility. Interesting. It's a very interesting thing to see a teacher, get into this situation with a student because it seems like, in this case, that they had a bond that went way before he became an adult. It seems like Filardo, as it says here in the text, she taught him from what, fifth grade to eighth grade. And if I remember right, children at that age are generally what? You know, uh, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, that sort of thing, going into the early tweens and stuff like that. So, yeah, by the time he was 13, she was deeply in his life. And I can remember being at that age. The two most influential teachers I ever had in my life, Mr. January, a black man who was my fifth grade English teacher, no, sixth grade English teacher, and Mr. Naylor, my sixth grade homeroom teacher. Once again, another black man. I had two black men who were teachers in my life when I was a very, very young man. And these guys changed my life. And I didn't even know it when they were changing my life. And you can have those teachers. The most influential people that you'll meet in life are your teachers sometimes, for some people. And Mr. Naylor and Mr. January left a big impact on my life. And maybe Filardo was filling that role for this young man who was very troubled, who had seen a lot of trauma and that sort of thing. And so far in the story, and I haven't read this story yet, it doesn't seem like they had a romantic relationship. It seemed like they had a relationship based more on, trust and understanding, and her trying to be a mentor and coach for him. I'm not trying to excuse her criminality if she did help this young man escape from jail, but we also have to remember that my state of Louisiana has some of the harshest penalties in the country. Louisiana has a law that people can be sentenced to death without unanimous decision from a jury. Louisiana also has some of the most amount of people with like life sentences in jails in the country. And we have mandatory life sentences for certain crimes. And Louisiana is very punitive, very harsh. We're one of the most dangerous states in the country, and we're also the one of the states in the country that locks up the most people. A lot of those people being poor black men. Well, let's continue reading. So, Magistrate Commissioner Pete Hamilton set bond at $5,000 and ordered Filardo, 31, to wear an ankle monitor upon her release. Her private counsel, attorney Bradley Phillips, requested it. A recommendation from prosecutors for a $500,000 bond for Filardo is an absolutely absurd request, Phillips said, citing his client's lack of criminal history and her status as a teacher and Tulane University graduate. Yeah, so uh, once again, in the American justice system, for anybody who's watching this who's not from the US, in the US, usually if you have a clean record, meaning you've never been convicted of a crime, have any crimes on your record or anything like that, usually you can get out of situations like this, a very serious crime, which is a felony, as they said. Uh, you can get out of this by simply bonding out, paying a fee, and going out about your day until the case has to come back to trial. That doesn't mean you're out of trouble. It just means you have to, you won't have to spend time in jail. In this case, you have probation or something like that, where they're monitoring you and making sure you're not committing any more crimes. And she's wearing an ankle monitor as well. Is that entirely fair for somebody? I would say yes. Generally, we don't need to be so punitive with people, especially when they commit crimes like this where nobody was actually hurt. But you should be punished for breaking people out of jail. I agree with that 1,000%. But a child should not be sentenced to a life sentence. I know they said it was a juvenile life sentence, but if you do something very bad at 13, hell, I would even argue, even if you kill somebody at 13, you shouldn't spend the rest of your life in jail. That's my honest opinion. You should have a long punitive sentence, and we should monitor you probably for the rest of your life. But spending your entire life in jail at 13 years old for committing a serious crime, I disagree with that. That's my honest opinion. So let's continue reading here. She didn't smuggle him out in a trunk or anything, Phillips said. Authorities, however, alleged that Filardo helped Reynolds, now 18, find safe harbor in Texas after he fled the Lake Charles facility. U.S. Marshals booked Reynolds at a McDonald's in San Antonio, Texas on Monday afternoon. Nearly 3 weeks after he fled. He is awaiting extradition, according to court documents, soon after Louisiana State Police arrested Filardo at her home in New Orleans. As they should. I mean, if she really helped this man, cross state lines, especially, I don't know how old he is. Did they say how old he is? If he's a minor, trafficking a minor across state lines, that's a very big offense. But if he's over 18, then this is okay. But once again, guys, as teachers and me as a teacher, I couldn't imagine doing this. Even if my favorite student came up to me and said, "Hey, help me evade the law," I'd be like, "I don't know you. I've never met you. What are you talking about?" That sort of thing. As a teacher and an educator, you have to be a role model to these kids that you're talking to, and also you have to follow the law, basically, right? That's what we're talking about here. So let's continue building. Reynolds had been serving a juvenile life sentence with a release date in April 2026 after being convicted of attempted murder for shooting a 22-year-old man in the back during an armed robbery on Morrison Road in March 2019, paralyzing him. Filardo was one of many teachers who rallied on Reynolds' behalf during his sentencing. She noted his scholarship in the face of adversity, tremendous, including post traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, once again, we don't see anything yet in this story that shows that they had a romantic relationship. By the way, I see people piling into the chat right now. So I want to say welcome. Jump into the chat, leave comments. We're building on this story right here. This Louisiana teacher helped this young man who committed a horrible crime. He was 13 and he was serving a life sentence in a Louisiana jail, and she helped him escape Louisiana and drive across the border to Texas uh, after he got out of jail. We don't know if she was coordinating with him or if she just found him or he came to her and then he convinced her to drive him across. A lot of people might think that they have something romantic or sexual going on. We don't know that yet, but we will talk about the epidemic of young white female teachers sleeping with a lot of their students and how this is a big problem in in not only Louisiana, across the United States of America. Hundreds of teachers have been caught doing these sorts of activities with their children, with children in their classroom, and that's not right. So let's talk about that. So yeah, let's continue building here. The other kids look to him. He's one of those kids that drives the energy in the room, Filardo told the Times Picayune in 2019. 4 years later, police found Reynolds driving a vehicle with a license plate tied to Filardo, according to an affidavit for her arrest from State Police Detective Jack Uhl Jr. After Reynolds escaped from La Maison de Grace Youth Home in Lake Charles on September 13th, he returned to New Orleans, according to Uhl's account of the investigation. On September 22nd, he started communicating with Filardo, who lives on Jackson Avenue. So this is a picture of the young man, Lionel Reynolds, reading in a school library before he received a juvenile life sentence for attempted murder. I hope I understand this article right. They're saying that they found him in a car that was tied to her, and then he was driving back and forth from Texas to Louisiana to see her. Now that's, maybe that's a hint of some romantic relationship, or maybe that's a hint of him just trying to stay in contact with the person who is helping him get his life on track after he escaped. I'm not really sure. We can read into it, and even if you read into this story and see that they had some type of romantic relationship, fine. We can say this young man, hopefully he was over the age of consent and he was 18, and he had this lady bent over backwards, hollering. If she liked that, okay, that's fine. They're both consenting adults in that case, though I still think that's ethically wrong for a teacher, a former teacher, to groom a child like that. I think that's totally wrong. But if they had a consensual relationship, fine. But what's not okay is breaking kids out of jail, and it's not okay to generally groom kids to then be your lovers later. So let's continue building. Their contact included nearly 100 communications. Investigation found far more than any others found on Reynolds' phone. She plotted with him to escape, claimed Dorothy White, the shooting victim's grandmother, who showed up at Filardo's first court appearance on Tuesday. White said she recognized the teacher as a frequent presence at court hearings. She helped him escape, and they went up to San Antonio. All right. So on the morning of September 23rd, Reynolds left New Orleans in a Chevrolet Trax registered to Falardo. Investigators said the vehicle traveled from Slidell to the Houston area. Investigators said the Trax returned to New Orleans that evening. I think it's horrible for a teacher to assist someone who has committed a crime. This brought to light that there was something going on between these two, said Isaiah White, the victim's grandfather, a retired New Orleans school teacher. This is a whole new can of worms. All right. So, yeah, he's traveling back and forth between Texas and Louisiana. She's, not saying anything to the police that she knows somebody who was in jail, was out of jail. Of course, all of this is bad. And plus, they're texting a lot. Now, I would say if the investigators know that they had a romantic relationship, I think that would be included in this article. I don't think there has been a time, from my experience, reading the news and keeping up with what's been happening, that when a teacher was sleeping with a student or when a teacher had some sort of romantic or sexual relationship with a student, anything, they're quick to put that out there because that's salacious. That gets clicks. I think if this teacher was actually doing what, a lot of people assume she was doing with the student, and the investigators have all the text messages, all their communications, I think we would know that by now because that would have been the headline of this article or that would have been mentioned so far in this paragraph. But it hasn't. But it hasn't. And listen, once again, I'm not caping for this young woman. What she did was absolutely wrong. And you should not help people evade the law, evade justice. You know what I mean? We can reform the criminal justice system another way, unless we're talking about breaking the Black Panthers out of jail. That's a different story. That's a different story. If we're talking about freeing some Black Panthers, that's a different story. But in this case, let the man serve his sentence. But a life sentence for a kid is not right. All right. Police surveilled Filardo as she drove her Chevrolet Trax on Monday to Walter L. Cohen High School, where she was a staff member. School officials declined to comment, but sent a letter to students' families on Tuesday, offering support and assuring families that Filardo's classes were covered. Police arrested Filardo at her home on Jackson Avenue, waiting until U.S. Marshals deputies arrested Reynolds in Texas, according to a police account. It took 9 days from Reynolds' flight from for an arrest warrant application to reach a juvenile court judge in New Orleans. The delay from the State Office of Juvenile Justice prompted criticism from Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams over a failure to alert his office. Juvenile Court Judge Candace Bates Anderson signed the warrant for Reynolds' arrest on September 22nd, the day before state police allege he made for Texas with Filardo's help. So, family members of Reynolds' shooting victim feared he would return to do more harm. And in the wake of the interstate manhunt, Williams pledged to push legislation to require statewide notifications anytime an inmate escapes. In a written statement, Williams thanked Louisiana State Police, the United States Marshal Service, and members of the public who shared tips anonymously as authorities searched for Reynolds. He also promised to hold anyone who'd aided Reynolds accountable for their actions. Absolutely, as they should be held accountable. And I support this idea, actually, of statewide notifications if there are escaped inmates. But first and foremost, I would push for legislation in Louisiana to reduce the number of inmates. A lot of people in Louisiana have been serving their time. They're up for parole, and a lot of people don't make parole. Parole is when you've served your time in jail and you go up to the board of people who then decide if you're able to be released, if they see that you've been reformed and you're not a harm to the community. And a lot of people who have been rotting in Louisiana jails for a long time, like the rapper Mac from No Limit, right? He's been up for parole multiple times and he's still, not able to get out of jail. You know what I mean? And that's not right. There's a lot of people in Louisiana rotting in jails for non-violent crimes or even violent crimes that have wait that have happened a long, 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 long time ago. They've obviously reformed or they're no longer a danger to the community. And still in Louisiana, we insist on locking up more and more people. It's very sad. And this young kid had juvenile life. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I would assume juvenile life is, of course, he has to serve his sentence until he's 18. And then probably when he's 18, they're probably going to say, okay, now you serve another 20 years on top of that, something like that, because that's how Louisiana works. I doubt that they would let him out when he was 18. So, Let's read the rest of this article. If they assist or aid this escapee in any way, they're committing a crime, Williams said. Anyone found to have assisted him, however slight, will be prosecuted, as they should. And that's the end of the article. Once again, all these articles will be in the comment section. And for anybody who's watching this live stream now, we're talking about this teacher from my state of Louisiana. She's a New Orleans teacher, Tulane graduate, and she had this relationship with this student. We don't know if it was romantic or not, but they were obviously close. She was a confidant after he went through so many years of abuse and seeing death all around him. His mother died in a mass shooting. His father got shot in the head and had a traumatic brain injury. He saw people die all around him, and then he ended up committing gun violence on somebody else, and then he ended up serving time in jail. He escapes from jail. She drives him to Texas, and then they both get arrested by U.S. Marshals. It's a crazy story. It's like the swirl version of Queen and Slim. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. But I want to talk about this because I think obviously she might have had another motive for why she broke him out. And I think it's because she is a real type of like social justice warrior, like a real social justice warrior, like to the literal extent. But before we get into that, let's get into these comments. I think children younger than 18 should have long time mandatory therapy instead of going to jail. That's a very good idea, Active. Very good. So they should, if they commit violent crimes, my thing is this: if anybody commits a violent crime, that person should have to do, unfortunately, some sort of jail time, right? Because it's not fair to the victims of violent crimes to see people walking around society who are still who did violence to them. You know, if somebody slapped them, you don't want that person just to be able to go home at night like nothing happened. We don't have a stable society like that. So people should serve time for violent crimes, even if they are young children, but it should not be, life sentences, especially if nobody died. He shot a person paralyzed, which is horrible and should not have happened. And he should be severely punished for that. But a life sentence for a kid is never okay. But unfortunately, in Louisiana, that's probably highly likely. And let's go back to the comments. Acti says, and of course, it should be free, but that's a dream. Prison just makes people worse. Yes, prison does make people worse because unfortunately, in a lot of countries and places, prison is not reform for people. Prison is a place where people go to become even worse. So, like I was saying, I think this woman, what was her name? Her name was Angela Filardo. Angela Filardo. She went to Tulane University, and if you don't know, Tulane University is like a semi Ivy League college in America. My father went to Tulane University, and I used to go to Tulane University all the time to eat at their cafeteria because they had bomb food. Boy, the food was so good. The food at the Tulane cafeteria was lit, and we used to walk from Loyola campus, which is literally right across the street from Tulane, go to Tulane and hang out there, go eat at the subway there or at their cafeteria and have a good old time. It was great. It was great. Tulane's actually a pretty good school. My dad went to Tulane and my mother went to the other very prominent school in New Orleans called Loyola, and that's how they met. And then I'm here 33 years later after they met at university. So she went to Tulane. And I found this article about her being a part of this social justice program. And I think this is very interesting because I think this case is different than the other cases we hear about teachers who sleep with students and then do crazy things like try to run off with them. You know what I mean? She might have been literally a social justice warrior in the sense that she wants to, radically reform the criminal justice system, help poor and disadvantaged people by any means necessary. Like she's really on some Patty Hearst, Black Liberation Army type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is what she's on. So let's read this article here. So, Passion for Social Justice Grows at Summer Program. This was published on August 10th, 2011, right? For many college students, summer is traditionally a time for exploration, for traveling, and for enlarging one's view of the world beyond the campus and the classroom. For Angela Filardo, the widening vision of the world took a very particular form, coalescing during a week spent in Boston as a part of the highly competitive Oxfam America Change program. So this is her right here. This is a picture of her sitting on campus. And the crazy thing is, I might have walked past this woman there's a very possible chance because if she was, I believe, studying in at Tulane at 2011, I went to Loyola at what? I started what 2009. I graduated 2013. So if she was a sophomore there, she might have been what a year ahead of me. No, we were in the same grade. We might have graduated at the same time because I was a sophomore in 2011. Yeah, I was a sophomore in 2011. We graduated probably at the same time. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. So let's continue building here. Rising sophomore. Yeah, it says here rising sophomore Angela Filardo in orange dress is one of only 50 students nationwide attending training exercise. Other change leaders and officials work on presenting information about campaigns to potential supporters. The Change Initiative seeks to metamorphose 50 socially minded college students into trained activists for social justice on the campus level. Oxfam America is an international relief and development organization that creates solutions to poverty, hunger, and injustice. Filardo, a rising Tulane sophomore with a passion for human rights, first became cognizant of the Change Initiative through her work with the Tulane Global Service League, a student organization that raises awareness about human rights issues. I've always been involved in volunteering on a local scale, said Filardo, and I love learning about other countries and cultures. The Global Service League seemed like a perfect blend. Filardo was encouraged to apply to the Change program by a fellow GSL member and Change alumni leader during the leader training. Filardo enriched her understanding of global obstacles to and abuses of human rights from a worsening food crisis to exploitative mining practices and left with a heightened commitment to social justice advocacy. That's what I think this woman truly believed possibly that, you know, that she was meant to come and try to change the world like a lot of young people do. A lot of people on those college campuses like Loyola, like Tulane, I was one of them back in 2010. Like we were in that midst of, that beginning of the social justice movement. You know what I mean? Like we saw tragedies happen right in front of us, like Trayvon and like Troy Davis being executed, and we saw a lot of injustice happening in America. We are that generation saw the Iraq war happening and stuff like that. So this woman, Angela Filardo, I see, kind of like where she was in that sense because I was on that campus too when they had, all those sorts of initiatives and all those programs to help empower people, empower students, sending them to different parts of the world or the country to do social justice work or social justice training. So I think after she graduated from all these programs and went through all of that, she saw that it's all BS. Like, we really can't change the world because with all the problems that we have in America, we've had programs for years to try to combat the injustice, the poverty, the exclusion, the discrimination that happens in America. And none of these organizations, none of these movements are really doing anything. So, what can we actually do? What we can do is break the boys out of jail, free the boys. That's probably what Angela was thinking. She said, you know what? This is real social justice. This is what's really social justice, helping young black men out of jail. And you know what? I respect that. I respect that. I respect that low key. If that was her reason, is it right? No. But do I respect it? Yes. Do I respect it? Yes. Because there's a thing between being right and doing what you believe is morally right, if that makes sense, right? There's natural law, and then there's the law that's supernatural in a sense, like what is morally right to do. But anyway, let's just keep building. So Filardo was encouraged to apply to the Change program by fellow GSL member and Change alumni. All right, I already read that. So John Ambler, Oxfam America's program director, made a particular impression on Filardo. Ambler has spent the better part of his life researching and campaigning for social justice in Asia, says Filardo. Once he argued with Taliban officials for women's rights. He's so knowledgeable and accomplished, and I would love if my life followed a similar track. When she returns to Tulane's campus, Filardo to practice working with Oxfam's new GROW program. Objective is to provide all citizens of the world clean water and a sustainable food supply. I'll be explained, and my goal is to link hunger problems in New Orleans with the global food crisis. So, this was written back in 2011 by Cody Wild, and he was another sophomore at Tulane. And once again, man, This is a story that's not okay for many reasons. It's not okay to help people commit crimes. It's not okay for teachers to have inappropriate relationships with students if they did have a romantic or sexual relationships. That's young people like this young man right here, seeing his mother die in a mass shooting, seeing people around him and his family get brain damage after getting shot in the head, seeing guns flood his community. That's even more wrong. That's even more wrong in America. And this story would not happen at all had it been in Germany, had it been in Austria, had it been in Switzerland, had it been in Sweden. This story would just be another, young white teacher sleeping with one of their handsome melanated students, which is wrong in itself, but would possibly be better. But what's even more wrong is what this young man had to go through in his life. You know what I mean? So we covered that. Another crazy story from Louisiana, my home state. Louisiana, we got to do better. We got to do better than this. We can't just be known in the news for, twerking, good food, and teachers breaking kids out of jail. I know it sounds like an action movie, but it's not a good look, Louisiana. We can do better. But before we end this live stream, and actually we have a few minutes left, so I'm ready to take any questions or comments from anybody in the chat. Y'all pile in here, y'all build with me. Let's talk about this, man. The epidemic of teachers abusing their students, particularly female teachers who sleep with their students. Now, let's get this out the way. It is not okay at all for older people to sleep with younger people who they are supposed to be role models for or guide them. I don't think it's right, even if they are adults, meaning that the student is a legal adult and the teacher is a legal adult, or even if they are similar in age. I don't think that's right at all. Period. It's not okay. This happens way too much in America, and we need to stop it. We need to stop it. And one of my things that I admire about my father, even though I have a lot of problems with him, is that, my father was a cardiologist, and every day he went to work, he saw people take off their shirt, women take off their shirt, and he had to put gel on their chest to check their hearts, right? To do the echograms and all that sort of stuff, right? So he had to do that, and never once has there been a woman throughout the 30-year career my father had. Never once has a woman said that my father touched them inappropriately or made an inappropriate comment or anything like that. He was the absolute consummate professional every single time. My father is my role model in that sense because he was able to resist that temptation every single time. You get what I'm saying? And somebody like that is who I try to be like when I'm with my students. You get what I'm saying? No matter how hot or attractive a student might be, or even if they are coming on to me or find me attractive, which obviously they will, I never once think about having that sort of relationship with them because I think about my father and all the times he had to, look at big titties in his face and not do anything about it. And I think my father also did that because he realized that there's certain responsibility that you have to have when you have a family at home, you have kids, you have a wife that depends on you. But also at the same time, he was thinking like, as a black man, a cardiologist, he has to represent well. And I also think about that as well. And that's the double edged thing. So, as a black male teacher, I know that I have to be a good representative for my people because I know for a fact a lot of people never have black teachers. A lot of people never have black men in a position of authority talking to them or being the ones that are providing them information or guidance and that sort of thing. And I know that's very unique. So I take that job very seriously and that duty very seriously. That number one, I have a family to provide for. I'm not just taking care of myself, I take care of my wife. And also, on top of that, I have a duty to represent my people well as I stand here in front of people, giving them information, guidance, and that sort of thing. Do you get what I'm saying? So I try to take that very, very, very seriously. So let's read this story though about some teachers, some female teachers who don't take that duty seriously. More female teachers caught having sex with students, experts say. This was written by Amanda Garrett, published for the Akron Beacon Journal. I don't know what time or what year, but this is the links once again will be in the description. So the 17-year-old was suiting up for track practice January 2018 when his gym teacher at Canton McKinley High School reached out to him on Snapchat. Tiffany Eichler asked the boy to come to her nearby office. When he got there, Eckler locked the door, flipped off the lights, and began pulling down his pants, the boy later told police. Wow. The boy didn't try to stop Eckler, a 36-year-old married mother of four who taught the boys swim class the previous semester. But as the two fell to the floor and started having sex, the teen was troubled. The whole entire time, I knew it was wrong, so I had to stop, the boy later told police. Eckler also had sex with two other teenage boys during the winter months of 2018 before she got caught. How sick, man. What a sick woman. See, I know that a lot of people think that, because they're a woman, they can abuse men in a certain way, right? But one thing I'll never forget is when my friend, who I won't reveal his name because the story is very personal, but he was a friend that I used to rap with. And he told me that he lost his virginity because one of his mother's friends, an older woman, was left alone in the house with him. And I believe he was about 11 years old. And this woman forced him to, pull out his junk, and she, filleted him. She forced him to allow her to give him a blowjob, right? And even though it was a blowjob and he told me that he finished, he was still, felt dirty about that, and he hated, his body a little bit after that because of how she made him feel, because he didn't know what was going on, or why that happened and that sort of thing. And it's not right for older women, even if women tend to think that men value sex so much, or sex is so important, to men and that sort of thing. These are still children, right? You should not violate children this way. It's absolutely sick that women are doing this, and they should get the same treatment that men get for doing this. And that's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. So the whole entire time I knew it was wrong, so I had to stop, the boy later told police. Eckler also had sex with two other teenage boys during the winter months of 2018 before she got caught. She is one of at least 5 female teachers, counselors, or school administrators in northeastern Ohio schools, city, suburban, and rural, to face charges of having sex or sexual contact with students during the past 2 years. Absolutely horrible that this is happening with multiple teachers. Multiple women are doing this. And I still don't understand why, because we've been hearing stories like this in the United States of America for years. For years, every single year, there's like 2 or 3 major cases of like a female teacher getting caught with young boys, right? And I don't know why. I have no idea why. Because number one, young boys are gross. We're pretty gross. I can't understand why a grown woman would want to, get down with a 16, 17-year-old boy. It's pretty gross. They don't shower. They just spray their body with Axe, and they barely brush their teeth, wearing the same underwear 3 days in a row, going to high school, just being absolutely gross. What is attractive about a 16, 17-year-old boy? I know a lot of these young boys look like grown men, but still, they don't have the minds like that, and they're not taking showers. Absolutely gross. So let's go to the comments here. So Act Dennis says, that's sick. Act Dennis says, the victims don't usually react because they are either scared or they trust the people like a role model. Absolutely. They trust them like a role model, and the people above them take advantage of that. Act Dennis says, the reaction doesn't make it okay to sexually take advantage of them. Not at all. And M1 Hamburg said, why don't you like Albania? I'm going to answer that, but at the end of the video. So why don't you stay for the end of the video? So let's go here. Most recently, Windham School's oh no, I skipped a sentence. So she is one of at least 5 female teachers, counselors, or school administrators in northeastern Ohio schools, city, suburban, and rural, to face charges of having sex or sexual contact with students during the past 2 years. Most recently, Windham School's superintendent Laura Amero, 35, was indicted in April on 6 felonies, including sex with students and intimidation of a crime witness. Amero, who has pled not guilty, is scheduled to stand trial June 18th. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. 6 felons, probably having sex with 6 different students or more. What a disgusting person you have to be. So some have downplayed or even laughed off the seriousness of female educators having sex with teenage students, playing into the trope of hormone-driven after the women at the front of the class. So let's talk about that very quickly. So I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm keeping it absolutely real. Some of my first crushes were my teachers. I told this story about the video I did about the Philadelphia riots. My sixth grade teacher, one of them, was this woman who had some big old knockers. And it was Black History Month. And she was talking about Martin Luther King. And she called Martin Luther King a handsome chocolate man that she wanted to marry, but she couldn't marry him because, of course, at the time, there were laws in America forbidding Black people and white people from getting married. I'll never forget that. My sixth grade white teacher said she wanted to marry Martin Luther King, and she thought she basically said she would throw Martin Luther King the pussy, and I thought that was hilarious, and that stuck in my mind ever since. I had a crush on her before she said that, but I was what, like 11 or 12 years old, I don't know, and I thought she was hot basically because she had some big old knockers. So yeah, my first crush, or some of my first crushes, were my teachers because I had a few hot teachers. I'm gonna keep it real with you, but I would not at all think it would be okay for me to sleep with my teachers then or now. That's not okay. That's not cool. You know, I had a few hot teachers like Miss Hunter. Miss Hunter in what, 10th grade. She was my civics history teacher. You know, she had a big old booty. She had a big old booty. It was really fat. It was really fat. But I would never smash Miss Hunter, and I would not want Miss Hunter to smash me. I'm gonna keep it real with you. But I did hear about. I'm gonna keep it real with you. Dennis, please stop. But I did hear about one of my friends. His name is P. I'm only going to give his name as P. P told me when I was hanging out with another friend that when he was in high school, one of the teachers gave him a BJ. One of the teachers gave him a BJ. I'm keeping it real with you. And P said that he was okay with it. He didn't feel like it was abuse, but he was obviously a child. And one of the teachers at West Monroe High School, because he was from West Monroe, I'm from Monroe, two different cities. One of the teachers at West Monroe High School gave him a BJ. I'm telling that truth. I'm not going to reveal any more of the story because I'm not doxing anybody. I don't want to tell me that. And I remember one time when I was in, I think it was eighth grade, I had this biology teacher, Black woman, and there was this kid in the school. His name was Dion. I'm not giving any more information like that. But Dion and this biology teacher used to flirt a lot. They used to flirt a lot. And I remember one time I was leaving class and the teacher was holding on to Dion's chest like this, like holding him like a man. You know what I mean? Like, you know how girls take that picture with their man with their hands on his chest and over their back like that? You know what I mean? Like this. It was like one of those. And I was like, hey, that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. And yeah, that wasn't cool, man. And honestly, man, I'm glad, every time the older I get, the more glad I am that I had parents that protected me and they didn't allow me to get abused. Because there's so many kids out there that have stories like my friend Peace, or the friend that I told the story earlier about how the older woman, forced herself on him to give him a BJ and stuff like that. I'm so glad that I made it through my life and I don't have any sexual abuse stories like that, because so many young people that I meet, or friends that I've had, have told me that they've gone through stuff like that, and that's not cool. That's not cool. And sometimes a lot of women are perpetrating it, even though more men do it. A lot of women are doing it, and it's not cool for anybody to do it. So uh, let's go here. So some have downplayed or even laughed off the seriousness of female educators having sex with teenage students, playing into the trope of hormone-driven boys lusting after the women at the front of. But many prosecutors and people who work with the abused say female teachers having sex with male students are doing just as much harm as their male counterparts who prey on girls. Nationwide, about 10% of all students experience sexual misconduct by a school employee sometime between kindergarten and the time they graduate from high school, according to a 2017 study funded by the U.S. Justice Department. Male abusers outnumber female, the study said, but the number of reports of female educators charged with sex abuse of students is rising, not necessarily because there are more women abusing children, but because they're getting caught, some experts say. In Stark County, Eichler pleaded guilty last year to 3 felony counts of sexual battery. Prosecutors asked a judge to sentence her to 4 years in prison, but rendered her teaching license and will forever have to register with authorities as a sex offender, had largely suffered enough. He sentenced her to 30 days in jail and another 30 days in what Stark County calls half jail, a sort of day detention room for adults. No, that's not right. That's not right. And that's sort of like a female privilege, I guess, and supremacy, of course, because even though I can't see her picture, I'm pretty sure this is a white woman who got a slap on the wrist for abusing kids. And yes, you should have to go to jail for abusing kids. I have some issues with the idea of sex offender list and that sort of thing because I feel like that's excessively punitive. But at the very least, you should go to jail. You should go to jail for abusing kids, no matter your gender, and no matter if it's your first offense. You took something away from that child that they'll never have again, the ability to see sex as purely consensual. You took that away from that child. Now this child might go and abuse other people. You don't know that when you do sex abuse to children, you're causing that sort of chain reaction to go down the line. You don't know if this young boy or young girl, whoever you're touching, will then go touch somebody else in an inappropriate way. And we continue to see this cycle of abuse, and it needs to stop. People, stay away from kids because most of the time the kids are mad annoying. Every time I teach a group of kids, I can't wait to get away from them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't wait to get away. Honestly, I don't understand why anybody would want to be romantic or sexual with anybody who is not their similar age or at least a consenting adult that you don't have power over. Let's keep it real. Anyway, I'm going to continue reading. An attorney who represented Eichler did not respond to a reporter's call, and Eichler could not be reached. This story of Eichler, the boys she had sex with, and the justice meted out is based on hundreds of pages of police and court records, along with interviews with the leader of the Rape Crisis Center for Summit and Medina counties, and a psychologist and author whose career is focused on sexual predators. Texts lead to more. The 18-year-old McKinley High School student was immediately suspicious when a text popped up on his mobile phone from Eichler, the woman who taught his sports psychology class. It was around February 2018, and Eichler wished the boy luck before his sporting event. I just found it weird, like she just found me on Facebook Messenger and sent text to me when she could have like told me in class, the boy later told police. Things escalated around Valentine's Day when Eichler asked the boy if he was dating anyone. No, he told her, he and his girlfriend had broken up. Through a private message on social media, Eichler told the boy she wanted to be his Valentine and that he could have whatever he wants, the boy told police. The boy was stunned. And like, that's when I took a step back and like, whoa, what? The boy said. And I said, I don't want anything. Eichler, however, persisted. She asked the boy for his Snapchat account. The boy said he didn't give it to her at first, but relented after Eichler asked the second time. I got to keep it real, man. As a father, and I had a son, and some woman was literally go there and try to strangle the broad. I'm keeping it real, man. If I was a father and some woman was trying to sleep with any of my kids, son or daughter, that's sick. You're a sick person, and you're gonna get dealt with. You're gonna get dealt with. I gotta get in contact back with my half sister. I haven't seen my sister in years. I don't know what she's doing, but if I can't slap abroad, I'm gonna get my sister to beat you up straight up. Like this is sick. This is sick. You're over here texting a kid on Facebook Messenger trying to get a Snapchat so you can send him nudes. What type of sick woman are you, man? Like seriously, seriously, hop on Tinder, go outside, go to the bar, go to the park, wear nothing but a sports bra, run up and down, and you can find some D. You can find some D. Let's keep it real. Women be trying to act like it's hard to find D, so then they got to go around trying to sleep on, little Daniel in seventh grade. Come on, man, y'all are sick. And I know I'm picking on the women right now, and like the report said, mostly men do this, but we know how society views men that do this. Women, a lot of women, unfortunately, are getting away with stuff like this because people think it's cute and innocent and funny. And a lot of women don't find it as serious because they, are used to the double standards that exist in society when it comes to sexuality and women and men, right? So they feel like they have this power and this cute, and they're playing into some fantasy that men have. But no, it's not a fantasy. It's not. It's not anything that's cool. You shouldn't be abusing kids like that. What type of sick person are you, man? Anyway, I want to keep on building here. So, Eichler, however, persisted. She asked the boy for his Snapchat account. The boy said he didn't give it to her at first, but relented after Eichler asked a second time. Eichler started sending him pictures. Nothing racy at first, but then on a Sunday, she sent the boy a picture of herself and said she was on her way to church. The picture, a selfie, showed a side view of Eichler in her underwear, a reflection in a bedroom mirror, the boy said. I'm like, this is crazy, the boy told police. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but do that. This crazy, the boy told police. Finally, on the day of McKinley High's parent-teacher conference, the boy and Eichler agreed over social media to have sex. Oh. And I'm gonna keep it real. If my son did this with the teacher, and he didn't tell anybody that the teacher was doing this, when the teacher shows up to the park or the movie theater where they're supposed to meet up, my big black ass is gonna be there like, you gonna have sex with who? You gonna do what to who? Camera all in her face, baseball bat in the other hand. I'm gonna go crazy on the bride. I'm gonna spank my little boy too, talking about he gonna have sex with his high school teacher. Boy, both of y'all getting your asses whooped. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Straight up. Like, y'all crazy. Y'all crazy. Y'all are sick. Y'all are sick. Both of y'all are nasty. Both of y'all are nasty. Both of y'all are in detention. Except, teacher, you're going to grown up detention, and young man, you'll never see a PlayStation again. You're never going outside again. You're on timeout, buddy. You're on timeout. Straight up. So finally, on the day of McKinley High's parent-teacher conference, the boy and Eichler agreed over social media to have sex. Ugh, gross. Eichler told him she would pick him up after she wrapped up meetings with parents. The boy, though he had agreed, said he wasn't sure if he would follow through. Yet he was there waiting for Eichler in an alley when she pulled up her black Ford SUV. Pulled up in her black Ford SUV. It was. And the boy suggested they drive to nearby Harmon's Park with skateboarding ramps and ball fields. She parked next to a path, and she and her student got into the back seat and had, oh, gross. Just gross. Ugh. I can't even say the word sex in this story. It's just gross. Afterward, as Eichler drove the teen home, he secretly turned on his phone, hoping to capture audio proof of what had just happened. During the drive, Eichler and the boy talked about how good the sex was, the boy told police, and Eichler told him that since he was 18, it doesn't make it that bad. But she warned him she could still get in trouble if he had said anything because she was his teacher, as she should. But this little boy is a little sneaking, conniving little boy. He's kind of sick, man, because he was probably thinking, I can get her on camera, I can get her on audio, I can sue the school and probably make a lot of money. Kids be conniving like that. Little kid was probably thinking, man, I'm gonna take him to court. I'm gonna get a payout. Anyway, types of abuses. Anna Saltler, a psychologist and author who has spent decades interviewing study children. The first target preschool children, often their own, and the sexual abuse is often tangled up with sadistic violence. These women rarely get caught because the level of violence is so severe. The children are afraid to talk, Salter said. Absolutely gross. Oh, I didn't realize this would be one of the hardest readings I ever had to do. I didn't realize that, I've done some hard readings before, but this is one of the hardest ones to actually think about people abusing children this much, and the children are so afraid to come forward because women are telling them, like, if you tell anybody, you're gonna get hurt even worse. Like, absolutely horrible. The second group of female sex abusers are coerced into sex by their adult male partners. Yeah, that happens a lot, unfortunately. Some men have fantasies about X, Y, and Z, and then they drag their women into it. And that's okay if they are consensual fantasies or fantasies where people aren't hurt and everybody's adults. But unfortunately, there are some men out there who have pedophilic fantasies and they drag their women into it, and the women consent rather than breaking up with those guys or calling the police, unfortunately. And the third and largest group of female abusers include many teachers, coaches, and school employees who get caught, Salter said. They think they love the children, Salter said. Often the women in this group of abusers are in their mid 30s, married, and have children, Salter said. These teachers are often popular, both with other teachers and students. Salter warns that people tend to confuse the teacher's likability with trustworthiness. They get caught more often than other sex offenders, Salter said, because their victims are usually teens who have autonomy. Cheryl Shakeshaft, a professor of educational leadership at Virginia Commonwealth University, calls these women opportunistic abusers. These teachers spend a lot of time around groups of students, talking with them, going to the same place as they go, and trying to blend in, Shakeshaft said, wrote in a paper about the warning signs of educator sexual misconduct. Often these teachers want to be seen as cool or hip, and their conversations about or with students are often inappropriately personal. A female teacher with a weak self image might be attracted to a male student in her class and feel excited when she talks with him, she wrote. She starts to think that pursuing him is acceptable because he's a teenager. Social and cultural norms have taught these teen boys that they are supposed to feel honored and engaged in sex, she wrote, even if some might feel repelled. Absolutely. When I was teaching, like middle school kids in Tunisia at the beginning of my English teaching career, because I'm a relatively young, generally good looking, handsome, chocolate black man. People expected me to go in there and be with the kids like, yo, what's up, guys, with my hat turned backwards and sit in the chair backwards with my legs open, like, yo, kids? What's going on today, man? Yeah, all that sort of stuff. And I was never like that. I showed up to school every day in a suit. I was super square. I didn't hang out with the kids extra. I talked to them. I was funny with them. I was trying to be cool with them generally, but I would never got too buddy buddy. I think as a teacher, you have to keep kids at an arm's length so that you always have that sort of respect and distance. That doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. That doesn't mean you have to be ice cold, but that doesn't mean that you have to be extra friendly and try to be extra personal with them. There should be that boundary between teachers and students generally so that we maintain that respect. When I was coming up in school, and I know I sound old saying that when I was a kid, but generally when the kids were at recess, all the teachers were in the smoking lounge or in the teachers lounge, and you never saw them. And whatever the teachers were talking about in the faculty room, oh, that was top secret business. We used to think the faculty room had like wild computers in there. They were in there, drinking martinis, laughing it up. Now that I'm older, they were probably back there just mad depressed, just worrying about how they're going to pay their bills, just very sad and depressing stuff. But back then, the teachers' lounge was like highly exclusive. I've never seen a teachers' lounge in my, all the years I went to school back then. I never even dared open the door. Nobody knows what's in there. So, there needs to be that boundary between students and teachers, if you get what I'm saying. So that way you don't have sex with students. That way you don't have sex with students if you have those boundaries. Let's continue reading. So, late night meetings. Another 17-year-old boy picked up the gym teacher's Snapchat information at a McKinley High School basketball game on a Friday night in the winter of 2018. When the boy got home, he sent Eckler a snap, lingo for a message sent over the social media network Snapchat, asking her, "What's up?" The boy was an Eckler student, but he knew she was a teacher at the school. In the mornings, Eckler often sent him snaps asking him how he was doing. Sometimes she sent pictures of her face, but nothing sexy, the boy later told police. About 2 weeks into their social media relationship, the boy texted Eichler after another McKinley basketball game and told Eckler he was hungry. Eckler picked up food from Raising Cane's chicken finger and headed to his house. She parked on a cul-de-sac and the boy came out and got into her SUV. It seems like all these women drive SUVs. Do they get them specifically so they can bang in the back? Gross. Absolutely gross. There was no kissing, no foreplay. They had sex under the windows of his home. And then the boy went back inside. And Eckler, who lived in Portage County, drove to her sister's home in New Franklin. A couple of hours later, the boy sent Eckler a social media message asking her to come back for more sex. Oh, man, if I was a parent, I'm glad I'm not a parent. I'm glad I'm not a parent because if I had a little boy out there slinging D to Miss D from period three, everybody would get killed. Everybody. About 2 or 3 a.m., the teacher returned to the student, this time with the boy's mom somewhere in the home. The boy and Eckler slipped into his basement laundry room and had sex again. Ugh. In the days that followed, the teacher and the boy continued talking on Snapchat. At some point, the boy sent Eckler a snap telling her that he needed $180 for medication because she gave him a sexually transmitted disease. Oh, this nasty broad. Oh, she's so nasty. She nasty. She nasty. She oh no, but maybe he was lying. Maybe he was just trying to game her, trying to see what he could get, because he's trying to say, "Hey, you gave me an STD. It's either I get the money from you or I ask my mom from it, and then she's going to ask who I got it from." So maybe he was trying to run a little extortion game. But let's see what happens. So Eckler later told police she was unaware that she had an STD if she did, but the boy said Eckler paid him $180. Vulnerable males. People generally don't think of women as predators, said Sandy Parker, director of the Rape Crisis Center of Summit and Medina counties. It's really kind of ingrained for a very long time, Parker said. I think women are thought of more as nurturers and caretakers, and that she and others say can leave boys and men vulnerable. Male victims, children, or adults may be less likely to report sex crimes, and even when they do, sometimes the justice system doesn't take the crime as seriously. Psychologist Salter said there have been studies about society's double standard. When researchers offer people vignettes describing a sex crime, a victim, and an offender, people consistently say a male offender should go to prison and for a longer time than a female offender in the precise same vignette. Salter said, "We underestimate female sex offenders," she said. "It's the old mythology. Boy, did he get lucky. Still rules. Ain't that a shame?" And, you know, I think definitely psychologists, therapists, people that study the human mind and human behavior need to look into female sexual abuse, because from my personal experience, anecdotal, I'm glad it's never happened to me, but boy, has it happened to a lot of men that I know. And none of them, except maybe P. But then again, P was a nasty boy. But maybe P was a nasty boy because that teacher touched his PP. So, none of most of the guys that I know that had unwanted sexual contact when they were younger never once said, "Yeah, I'm glad that happened to me." There's a guy, Russell Brand, right now. Russell Brand is getting in trouble because, maybe Russell Brand is a rapist. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Allegedly. So they're saying. I haven't been keeping up with the story. But what I do know is that Russell Brand's father used to take him to the Philippines to sleep with, Filipino or Thai. It's either Thailand or the Philippines. He used to take him to Southeast Asia. Russell Brand's father used to take him to Southeast Asia to sleep with prostitutes there at a very young age. And now Russell Brand is being accused of sexual assault and sexual battery and a lot of things like that. And that possibly has to do with that. Children should not be exposed to so much sexuality at a young age. I know we're talking a lot about gay and trans people being exposed to children and that sort of thing, but children are exposed to a lot, a lot more. Pornhub, very easy to handle and access. Instagram is 50-50 pornography. A lot of sexual content is on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube and that sort of thing. So if you're going to have the same heat for the gays or the trans people that are in media just representing themselves, you have to have the same heat for, people twerking all over the gram and people twerking all over TikTok and that sort of stuff. So let's keep it real. And I'm going to keep on building here. So, unexpected post at the beginning of the 2017-2018 school year, a 17-year-old boy in Eichler's swimming class posted on Snapchat that he wanted to do streaks. Streaks involve friends snapping photos of each other on Snapchat once a day, every day for an extended period of time. Then she had slid up on the Snapchat and said she wanted to do one. The boy's Eckler sent the boys pictures showing her sitting in her living room. Other times, she was in her SUV. Nothing provocative. The boy said he sent her similar pictures in return until things started to change. In January 2018, the boy was sending out pictures as part of his snap streak and sent Eichler a picture of his bedroom dresser, which is made of wood. Eichler, he said, responded by saying she wanted another kind of wood, slang for an erection. The boy didn't get it. This woman is a predator. Jesus Christ. Where's Chris Hansen? Ugh. This woman talking about she wanted little boys. Oh, Jesus. It's so bad. Oh, I sent back question marks because I didn't know what she was talking about, the boy told police. Once she helped him understand, the boy said he stopped messaging her and they didn't talk about it. A couple of days later, the boy started sending random snap streaks again, including to Eichler. It went on for like that for months. Sometimes the boy would sit in Eichler's office and she would ask him about his grades or tell him about her husband and kids. Then one weekday afternoon, Eichler snapped him and asked him what he was doing. When he told her he was getting ready for track practice, she snapped him to come to her office. The boy told police there was no hint that anything sexual was about to happen. When he got to Eichler's office, there was no conversation. She just locked the door and turned off the lights. I was in shock at first and I didn't know what was going on, the boy said. And then she started pulling my pants down and I wanted to stop. I couldn't. I just couldn't think at that time. The they never talked about what happened afterward, he said. And he didn't tell anyone until kids at school started talking about a video going around that proved Eichler had sex with another boy. The secret video the boy who had sex with Eichler at the park made as Eichler drove him home. A former girlfriend of the boy who had sex with Eichler in the park discovered the video on his phone and shared it. Wow. As gossip spread, someone from McKinley staff pulled aside the boy who had sex with Eichler in her office. Soon he was talking to police, and so was his teacher. Lenient sentence. During an interview with a Canton police detective in March 2018, Eichler said she had been married about a dozen years, but she and her husband had grown apart. Eichler wasn't happy and felt particularly bad about herself, so bad she was seeing a counselor, she told police. When the detective asked Eichler when she started reaching out to children at McKinley High, she suddenly seemed defiant and turned the question around. I would say most of them reached out to me, Eichler told the detective, adding that students often approached her for sex, contradicting what two of the three boys told police. This lady, she take accountability, man. Just say you did it. You got caught. You just got caught with it. But anyway, let's read the comments real quick. So, Act Dennis says, please stop, LOL. Craig Matt says, what up, Simon? What up, Craig Mack? Ozzy says, wow, she's sick. Yeah, for anybody coming into the chat now, shout out to you guys for coming in. We were talking about this teacher in Louisiana who broke out this young man from jail after he shot somebody. We don't think that she had a sexual relationship with him, though it is possible. We don't know. We think maybe it's because she's a social justice warrior who really, really wanted to help a young black man get free. Okay. But now we're reading more about these teachers who are having sex with students, and unfortunately, they are being nasty and gross. So we're almost done here. Uh, when the detective asked Eichler when she started reaching out to children at McKinley High, she suddenly seemed defiant and turned the question around. I would say most of them reached out to me, Eichler told the detective, adding that students often approached her for sex, contradicting what two of the three boys told police. Regardless, under Ohio law, a school teacher having sex with a student violates the law. Weeks later, a Stark County grand jury indicted Eichler on 3 counts of sexual battery felonies that could yield 5 years in prison. Eichler pleaded guilty. Prosecutors filed paperwork asking Stark County Commons, please Judge John Haas, to put Eichler in prison for 48 months, 12 months for each time she had sex with a student. Yep, that's a long time. That sounds about right. Eichler was grooming students, a process that led to sex, prosecutors said in court papers. In a day when strict security measures are put in place in order to keep dangerous people from entering schools, the last thing that parents should have to fear are that teachers inside could be taking advantage of those same protected individuals, prosecutors said. Prosecutors told the judge in court paper that they had always been concerned that the sentencing in this case would be considered differently because Eichler is a female teacher with male student victims, and that there would be a level of sympathy given to Eichler which would not have been given if the genders of the parties were reversed. On June 19th, 2018, Eichler appeared before Judge Haas to learn her fate. The mother of one of the boys who had sex with Eichler told the judge her son was a good boy who didn't get into trouble. You, the mother said, addressing Eichler, were supposed to be looking out for my son, but you were only looking out for yourself. The judge said Eichler was sorry for what had happened, and it was very unlikely she'd target teenage boys again. He pointed out Eichler had already lost her teaching license, respect for herself, and the respect of others, as she should. This woman should not be allowed to teach again. I think there should be a vetting process for women, or there should definitely be a training course. You know, the thing about teaching is, and me as a teacher, we get paid very little. A lot of us get, very little training, and we have a lot of demands put on us. So I'm not being sympathetic to Miss Eichler or any female teacher who sleeps with students or any teacher at all who abuses their power. But there's a lot of stress that's being put on teachers. And what I think we need to have in America and all around the world is basically a vetting process for teachers to make sure that they're not going to be a predator. There needs to be specific training for young women and young men who want to be teachers about how to have appropriate contact with students to avoid situations where they could be enticed by students or students can entice them, or that sort of thing. They need to make sure that these teachers are not going to abuse kids, because it's amazing right now that none of these teachers, the hundreds of women like this who have touched kids, had sex with kids, and none of them are, hurt by the parents. Because, like I'm saying, if I was a parent and one of these teachers, these nasty broads, put a finger on my son or daughter, I'd break their fingers. Honestly, it's pretty bad. I don't know why people get away with this, but we need to make sure that teachers are trained, prepared to be able to control their emotions and have a distance between themselves and students. So not only so that they don't end up having sex with students, which is bad, they need to also not break students out of jail. All of this is dumb. All of this is dumb. America is a crazy place. So the judge said Eichler was sorry for what had happened, and The judge said Eichler was sorry for what had happened, and it was very unlikely she'd target teenage boys again. He pointed out Eichler had already lost her teaching license, respect for herself, and the respect of others. I'm not going to send you to prison, he told Eichler. It would serve no real purpose in this case. The judge decided on a 30-day jail sentence, along with a slew of requirements, including Eichler registering as a sex offender, completing probation, and seeking counseling. Eichler, still married and now working at a car dealership in Kent, is also forbidden from snapping with anyone under 18. Now, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. So, Ozzy said he's disappointed in this one sister. Yeah, yeah. You know, this is basically a white woman thing. White women can have this. I'm sorry, but anyway, this is not fair. That this woman Eichler, and we don't have her picture. Her picture is not here, but her picture should be out there. This woman is a predator. She slept with multiple young men. This female teacher slept with multiple young men, and because of white supremacy, because she has the complexion for the protection, and she also has the gender of the selection that does not give her the right to go to the facility of correction, she does not get the punishment that a man would get. If I, as a man, was sending Snapchats of my penis to students, if I, as a man, was out there trying to meet up with young girls at the park who I taught in class, I would be under the jail, especially as a black man in America. But because Eichler is a white woman who did all of this to young boys, she only got 30 days in jail. And yes, she has to register as a sex offender, but that's it. And that's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay at all. So, anybody with comments, leave them in the chat. Build with me. We have one more article to read before we get out of here. This article is about why this seems to happen. And I might have to cut this stream short, but let's see what happens. I'm going to take a quick water break. Y'all build with me. All right. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to this last article here about why this happens, why it seems that so many teachers are sleeping with their students. So, why is there a double standard when female teachers have sex with students? This was written by Stuart Perry for ladbible.com, published on March 6, 2018. And here are some pictures of some of the women that sleep with their very disappointing that it's happening, especially for me as a teacher. I can't imagine doing this. Comments laughed off the inappropriate and illegal relationship. On social media, one social media user wrote, "Can we spare a thought for this poor boy? He is currently in surgery due to the trauma his wrist has suffered from all of the high fives." Horrible that people would make that type of joke. It reveals a shocking double standard of child sexual abuse and grooming, as some people don't seem to find an issue with the relationship if the female teacher is deemed attractive. Flip the genders around, and you can be damn sure you wouldn't be seeing the commenters praising the female student for having sex with a male teacher. And this is the woman that they're going to be talking about today. This is the female teacher, another female teacher who had sex with a student. This is Stephanie Peterson. She has been charged with having a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old boy. Now let's keep it real. A lot of people might see this woman and think she's hot, she's attractive, she's beautiful, and anybody who got to sleep with her is lucky, right? Whatever. As if, pussy has some sort of magical quality that is so important for men that, we're willing to be sexually abused to get pussy. Of course. Yeah, that's what it means, right? So, no, this woman, no matter how she looks, is not permitted to touch children. It's not okay under any circumstances. And while she might be a looker, she can easily find some grown dick. She can easily find some grown man penis. Why are you trying to sleep around with boys who barely wash their gooch? Why? A 2013 study found women were responsible for 19% of sexual abuse committed in positions of trust in the United States. The study said female sexual offenders are significantly underrepresented in the literature, largely due to a failure of our society to recognize women as a standard. When men are caught doing the same thing, we usually react with disgust and anger when of any age is arrested for soliciting sex with someone underage. Yet, when the roles are reversed, some people don't seem to recognize the student is a victim. It's interesting that there are two very different reactions to female sexual predators. Relationship expert and psychologist Dr. Pam Spurd tells LAD Bible. Some people simply can't believe that women could behave like that because deep down within our psyches, we view women as nurturing and caring, which they are. And I'm sure some of these women think that they are being nurturing and caring by giving a young man his first piece of hot ass. But that's not nurturing. That's not caring. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. So then the reverse of this also happens, where people judge female pedophiles more harshly than their male counterparts because they're enraged that a woman who should protect the child has taken advantage of one. There is no difference, psychologically speaking or not, between a pedophile and a teacher engaging in a sexual relationship with a student, and if that student is underage. Even in university settings, this is actively discouraged because of the imbalance of power between a university tutor and a student, which I agree with wholeheartedly. Even if you're a university professor and you have a hot 19-year-old student in your class, don't sleep with her. That's not good. That's unethical. That's immoral. You're there to be a teacher and a guide, not some guy who's there to hook up with broads. Get some game, go to the bar, make it happen. So it's no different to a scoutmaster, priest, or minister, or anyone else who should be looking after the welfare of children who then abuse a child. Why do these relationships happen? There's no one size fits all explanation for what sparks these relationships. Dr. Spur tells LAD Bible, I think some teachers forget appropriate boundaries in some part because of blurred boundaries with teachers often interacting with pupils online. Um, Okay, I don't know what this is on the screen. Get this out of here. Here's this woman now, looking very sad, very sad. All right. And some forget such appropriate boundaries on purpose because they want to interact on a more personal level with pupils who they might target for abuse. Oh, this is Stephanie now. You ain't so hot now, Stephanie. She's looking very sad in this picture. Looks like Stephanie, oh, it didn't work out for you. Sleeping with a 14-year-old boy. This is the face of a predator. Everybody look at this right now. This is the face of a criminal. This is the face of a thug. This is the face of a sexual deviant. This is somebody who should not be around children. This is somebody who should be thrown under the jail. I'm only saying this because this is what the white supremacists say about black people whenever our mugshots are up, whenever we get in trouble with the law. They say this about us. So why not say it about them as well? It is happening more these days. A Daily Express investigation found there were 142 female teachers convicted of sex offenses in 2016 in the UK, which is double the 2014 number and triple what was seen in 2010. Concerns were raised in a 2016 Clear Voice journal that social media and smartphones have made these types of relationships both easier to form and easier to be revealed to the public. Before the turn of the century, they wouldn't find teachers or students sending naughty sex to each other, nor would you have either party stalking the other on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, obviously, because that type of stuff didn't exist. It also leaves a digital breadcrumb trail that makes conviction much likelier because authorities have evidence of the relationship compared to a he said, she said scenario. Yeah. So social media is the devil. I'm pretty sure some of these teachers are going on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, looking up their students and saying, wow, man, Johnny's got a six pack. And I'm sure sometimes even the students are looking up their teachers on Facebook and saying, man, Miss Anderson got some big old knockers and that sort of thing. And yeah, social media is a devil. Stay away from it, kids. Don't use it. It's not good. Okay. Dr. Spur tells LAD Bible, social media makes everything seem less formal. A person's natural sense of what is right, what's wrong, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate seems to be broken down in some cases. The Florida teacher that sparked this debate, Stephanie Peterson, has been charged with 2 counts of lewd or lascivious battery and 1 count of transmission of harmful materials to a minor. I hope these are felonies because she should be charged with a felony because anybody sleeping with a 14-year-old boy is a felonious monk. That's not a funny joke. That's a very unfunny joke. I'm sorry. Anyway, the 26-year-old allegedly picked up the 14-year-old student in Volusia County late at night to have sex before returning him home around 1 to 2 a.m. Police have also said that Miss Peterson bought the boy marijuana. Oh, that's even worse. Oh, that's even worse. Anyway, that's the end of the article. That's the end of this story here. I really wanted to talk about this for many reasons. I'm from Louisiana. I'm a teacher. I know that Louisiana has a messed up criminal justice system. I went to Loyola, which is right across the street from Tulane, and this woman and I are literally like alumni. Like her and I are alumni. We went to the same general because Loyola and Tulane are like brother sister universities, right? So, you know, I possibly walked past this girl or saw her somehow, and now it's crazy how life works because a lot of people would have suspected my black ass to be on the news. That's the crazy thing, right? That's the crazy thing. A lot of people, because we live in a racist world, if you ask them back in 2011, who's going to be in jail in 13 years, uh, Simon or Angela, Simon or Angela, guess who's in jail? Guess who's in jail? Not me, buddy. I'm over here in Budapest living my best life with my wife, not a criminal at all. Happy, free, still broke, but I'm happy and free. And the crazy thing about this world that we live in is that people tend to think that your complexion will determine the direction of your life, right? Because of this white supremacist mindset that exists in people. But hey, we prove them wrong every day. I'm outside. I'm still teaching. I'm still making money. I'm still taking care of my family. I'm still providing light and guidance to people all around the world. And Angela is now probably going to sit in jail, even though she did it possibly for a very good reason. I think if this woman was actually sleeping with the student, they would have said that because there are so many articles that we just read about teachers getting caught in that and they have no problem putting that out there. And I'm pretty sure the news stations love when they get those type of articles because when a woman is caught doing something sexually deviant, oh, that's a lot of clicks. People are interested in that. But there's not that in this story. So that's why possibly people don't hear about this story a lot, and that's also why they didn't write about it in the actual news story. Either way, she's wrong for what she did. But if she did it for like social justice reasons or because Louisiana is a messed up system, then it's I can see where she's coming from. It's not the right way to do it, but I understand it. But what's even more tragic is that this young man grew up in this world where there was so much gun violence and death around him, and he had to see all that, suffer all that, and that's caused this whole chain of events that has now kind of ruined both of their lives. You get what I'm saying? So I hope you found this live stream interesting. Thank y'all for rocking with me. I was building with y'all heavy. I don't know if M1 Hamburg is still in here, but if you are M1 Hamburg, I'll answer your question. I like Albania. I have no problem with Albania as a country and generally most of the people, but I will not back down from talking about my experiences of dealing with anti black racism. If anybody calls me a racial slur, attacks me or my wife, attacks my family, attacks my character, attacks my names, always, always clap back and talk back. That's it. I'm sure you would do the same if anybody disrespected you. So, thank you for watching, everybody, and see you on the next live stream. Peace.